You're inside the press box. Christian FM Sports presents Inside the Press Box, where we discuss all sports from our favorite high school team to college and pro. Here's your host, Paul Tipton and Gary Paris.
Hey, Vero Nation. Paul Tipton along with Gary Paris. We're inside the press box. And, you know, this is probably, well, no, not probably. This is the first time in 6+ years during the regular season that we're going to be talking about Vero Beach coming off of a loss. The regular season streak is over. It stops at 65 games, and that is because of a 17-16 loss to Treasure Coast on Friday night. GP, it was a game that we knew was going to be intense. This rivalry has just grown every single year. It's one of the few teams that, you know, you always talk about rivalries. It's not a true rivalry until the other team wins. Well, you've had Treasure Coast in the Lenny Jankowski era who's never won against Coach Jay. But the rivalry seems to get more intense every single year, and sometimes we've played Treasure Coast 2 times in the same season. So this Friday night, you knew it was going to be intense. You knew that these guys were going to be ready to play, and sure enough, they did.
Well, this has been a game that has been in the making. I'm talking about Treasure Coast, Irwin Jones's team. He's gotten the consistency. He's gotten better. He's got his athletes believing in his system, just like Lenny does. So you knew that you got 2 of the best coaches in the state, and especially on the Treasure Coast, that have played very close the last couple years. Very fortunate that we won last year and in overtime. And so, again, you saw a game that people said, well, Vero Beach, I mean, man, what a great play. Vero's never out of a game, in my opinion, if it's close.
Well, that's true.
Lenny can draw up plays. If he had a little pad sitting there, he would come up with a play that he could make work. So, outstanding game. Just an outstanding game. You know, we all went to dinner afterwards, after the game, and we really sat there, and not one of us felt terrible because we knew our kids gave it their best.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we felt good.
Yeah, we said that, man, you can't get a better game than that. Mm-hmm. And I just was so proud of Vero Beach. We saw some of the kids that came into the place where we were eating, and we talked to them, and they, too, felt like, hey, we didn't leave anything on the field. We left it out there, and they emotionally were drained, but they would look back and they'll say, hey, we played a good team that last night, and unfortunate we lost.
So, Gary, it comes down, you have the big play at the end where, you know, Wren catches the short pass. He flips it off to McMillan, and Bobby runs down the sideline, has to dive from about the 5-yard line and makes it into the end zone. There was some conversation at the end by the officials because one official thought maybe he stepped out. One official thought maybe he didn't cross the plane, when the bottom line is they gave it to him. So you had both teams out on the field at the same time. I mean, like everybody all out on the field. One's cheering, one's kind of like going, no, we scored. The other one's going, no, we won. And then finally the officials declare it a touchdown. Then becomes the interesting decision time because, you know, if you kick an extra point, you tie. Let's go to overtime because it's an untimed down. There was no time left on the regulation clock. Or, as Coach Jay elected, he decided to go for 2. Now, you know, I'm sure you probably all weekend long, just like me, you had people coming up to you going, why wouldn't you just go for the 1, go to overtime? And my response has been, well, I'm sure Coach Jay had his reasons for wanting to go for 2. You know, when I look at it, Gary, as just kind of a novice fan here, I look at it and go, you know, all things being equal, at that moment, you almost have everything working so much on your side. If they hadn't, in my opinion, if they hadn't had that conversation to talk about whether it's a touchdown or not, I think they got Treasure Coast so far on their heels, I think it actually does work to go for 2 and maybe catch them so far off guard. And it is still, in spite of everything that happened, it almost still worked.
Yes, good point. And here's the thing that I think, and I hadn't talked to Coach Jay since the game. I hadn't talked to him. I haven't seen Coach Jay, and so I don't know what was in. To have a chance to ask him what he was thinking. I told you guys on the air, I thought it was a good call.
Yeah,
I thought it was a good call to go for it, and the reason I say that, and I'm not sure Coach even agrees with me or may have different reasons, but in a 10-yard game. And that's what it comes down to in overtime.
Right.
You line up on the 10. They had rushed for 292 yards on 51 carries.
Mm-hmm.
They were 0 for 1 passing with an interception. They were averaging 5.7 yards a carry. Okay, that's our defense struggled to stop that.
Yeah.
I mean, we would have struggled to play. Not that we couldn't. But that's what they were averaging.
Sure.
And we had just taken the ball downfield, and Coach probably talked to his staff during that period and said, what do you want to do? And I think he came away with in my mind, was that let's win it now. I don't want to get into a slug match. Mm-hmm. We still got to play Westwood next week. No use getting any. Let's just run one more play. And again, I'm speculating. And
sure.
Again, I'm not, but I felt like he felt that if we got into a 10-yard game and they had a good chance to probably win it in overtime. So instead of doing that, let's go for it instead of kicking the extra point. And they almost got it.
They did. And I like your points there, Gary. I think those are good, valid points. I look at it this way. It's a 50-50 shot. I mean, look, if you go for 2, okay, that's a 50-50 decision. If you go for 1, it's still a 50-50 decision because as you and we've already seen, even with Vero this year, we have missed an extra point. So it's not a guarantee that even if you line up for 1, that the snap, the hold, and the kick are all going to be good. So you're still banking on that. And even if all of those do work, there's still no assurance. I mean, I get it. It's a percentage game. There's no assurance that you walk away a winner after overtime. No,
you're 100% right. I think Coach Jay made the right decision, in my opinion, based on what I saw out there on the field on Friday night. And let's move on to Westwood, and that's the theory behind it. But I'm going to tell you what, that was 2 champions fighting each other out. That's 2 years, 3 out of the last 4 years that this game has really been good. And I'm going to tell you right now, They played hard. They come into Vero Beach, biggest crowd we've had all year because of the limitations we have. And that crowd was cheering. Mm-hmm. They had a decent crowd representing them.
Sure did.
There. And I'll tell you right now, people walked away, had to be very proud. Yes, they may have second-guessed Coach, and they may have given their opinion and said, hey, we should at least go for the tie. But I still think it's the right call, but I look back at the game and how Vero scratched and clawed its way in. It was to what, 10-10 at halftime?
Yeah.
10-10 at halftime.
Well, let's talk about this, Gary. Okay, so normally in a game, you will see Vero probably have somewhere, I would say, probably 10-plus possessions in a ball game. We had 7 for the whole game.
Let me throw another one at you. In the first half, we had 4 first downs. They had 9.
Right.
9 first downs. That was the stat when I kept writing down, made me stop and think, wow, 10 yards. We got 4 and they got 9.
Yeah.
They're a little better at getting first downs than we were.
Yeah. So, we knew it was going to be a tough contest, and it definitely lived up to the expectations that it was a battle all the way to the very, very end, and it even almost possibly could have gone to overtime with a little bit more excitement. But you know what? You just tip your cap to your opponent. You go, hey, you guys played a heck of a ball game, and you know what? There's a good chance we may see you down the road somewhere in the playoffs.
Well, the most likely, what it would be, the third round of the
Depending on how you look at it, I mean, because
they're
you have
in a
all
different
these,
bracket.
right? They're in a different bracket, but because you have all these different play-in games.
Yeah,
I think for Treasure Coast, if they were to get to that point, it would be, I think, almost the fifth game for them, if I'm not mistaken. Or for sure the fourth game,
fourth or fifth game,
right?
And again, they got to play eventually the winner of Dr. Phillips and Palmetto. Palmetto hasn't played a game yet.
Right.
By the time we get into ours, they may only have 3 or 4 games under their belt, if that many.
Yeah.
And so there's so much that lays in front.
Yep.
Vero Beach has got to put that game behind them now. Forget about 65. I'm going to tell you, let's talk about a second about that. That's phenomenal.
It is.
To win 65
Yep.
regular season games.
Yep.
That means you got one of the most consistent programs in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You might have had you're talking about probably 3 or 4 different quarterbacks through that era, and 2 or 3 different teams graduating through that era
All right.
of football.
Yeah.
At Vero Beach High School. So that tells me that from the time they become freshmen to the time they graduate, when they're freshmen, they're taught the system. They're taught it. They're taught it in 10th grade. And then when if they're lucky, they will move up and get into the varsity level. And the level of coaching up there is phenomenal. Those guys do a great job, and I'm so proud to be just associated with it as a coach on the JV team. But Lenny and his staff, they just do fantastic. I watch them coach. I get out there. Their love for the game and their love for the kid is great. And that's part of the success. And I think Erwin Jones has done that too at his program. But 65, I don't know how long or how soon that will be.
It will take a while. It took a while for Vero to eclipse the record that was set by Lakeland many years ago. So, yeah, it will be one of those that will probably stand for quite some time. So, as a program, it's one of those things you can be very proud of. All the kids that participated in that, over the 6.5 seasons that it took to put that together. I mean, that's just a phenomenal mark that, will be interesting to see. Can another program or can Vero maybe even at some point repeat that? Who knows? Maybe they can break their own record. You never know. But, all things come to an end. And, and honestly, Gary, when you look at that, you go, okay, if I had to lose to somebody, I'd rather lose to a high-quality opponent where I still had a shot at the end of the game to win it. I lost by 1 point in the game. To me, as and I didn't even play the game. If that's me, I would rather look at that than go, man, this team that came in winless and beat us, by 21 points, I feel really bad.
Well, the thing our audience probably doesn't know or doesn't remember, our opening game was supposed to be with the Venice Indians.
Right.
Venice has only lost 1 game. That was the IMG.
Right.
They are supposed to be one of the best teams in the state of Florida this year. Venice is. They're a top 10.
And I think they are.
They're a top 10 team. So because of the COVID-19, we had a person test positive. We had to cancel the game because our whole defense was quarantined. And so you when you look at that and you say to yourself, okay, well, we didn't play Venice. We could have or would have or should have beaten. Well, we don't know. So to lose, it's going to happen sooner or later. You just can't win them all.
No.
And we play a better schedule as we go on. We got Westwood next week or this week.
And here's the interesting thing on that, Gary. So for the first time in 6 seasons for sure, this is the first time during the regular season that now you're looking at coming off of a loss and how do you rebound. In the prior years, it's been you've lost the game, but that was in the playoffs and the season was over. Pack up your gear and we'll see you in spring. So this will be an interesting dynamic that, not that coaches don't have experience with this, but they haven't really had to face this in quite a while.
I think the fact that we went for 2 and we almost got it plays a factor. That means we were 2 feet from being undefeated.
Right.
2 feet. The ball was under pressure, open receiver, but because he was under pressure, he threw it short. It kind of skipped into him.
Yeah.
And been 2 feet higher, that would have been a catch. We would have won the game. That's how close the game is. So I think coming off that, and plus there is no district this year.
Right.
There is no champion. There is no number one seed. It's all about the blind draw and the coin toss. And Vero Beach could have home games for a long time.
Well, as it looks right now, that is the case.
And so Vero's got to put that one behind. It's a lot easier to put it behind than it would have been in the past.
Sure.
But they got a Westwood team now that they want to beat, and Westwood is a very good team.
Yep. And we knew coming into this part of the season, that stretch, starting with Treasure Coast, that it was going to be a tough road to travel. I mean, really the only one that you look at and you kind of go, okay, the game that maybe we should win would be against Central, but the other 4 teams on that slate against Treasure Coast, which we didn't win, then you got Westwood, then you're going to have Clearwater coming up, and then eventually Kissimmee Osceola. So that's just a really tough stretch for anybody, but Vero now has to find a way to kind of get this loss behind them and get ready for the Panthers, who are playing some phenomenal football right now, Gary.
Tough team. Very tough team. I think they won last week. I haven't had a chance to catch up on that, which would, I think, makes them undefeated also.
Correct.
Yeah, there's only 2 teams left in our Treasure Coast area that's undefeated. Would be Treasure Coast and Westwood, I believe. Now, I know you're checking that up for me, but please do. But they've been so close the last few years of putting their team together. They got a lot of good athletes. They've got a good coaching staff. They've stepped up, met the challenge, and they're good. I mean, they've been playing everybody tough.
Yeah, Westwood beat Okeechobee last Friday night, 19-12. Now that's a little bit below what they've been putting up point wise, but bottom line is, yeah, they have won the ball game, so they're 4-0 coming into this game on Friday.
So we're used to seeing teams like the last few weeks. Martin County was undefeated. Treasure Coast is undefeated. And now we see Fort Pierce Westwood. But which I think are great challenges for the games to get you ready for playoff.
Sure.
I think all these games right now make a team mentally tough.
Yep.
Mentally tough.
Yep.
Because you play good competition.
Right. I agree with you, Gary. I think this is, and we've seen this from Coach Jankowski over the last several years. He does not back away from opponents. He likes to find the better teams, the better programs out there, and he wants to play them because, look, if you want to play in postseason, who are you going to play? You're going to play the better teams in the state, so you might as well get used to it.
He went all over the state trying to find games.
Yeah.
Of course, Palm Beach, Miami, and Broward County were out because they all opt out of not playing except for Miami,
right?
Palmetto. So
and then you got a bulk of most of your counties are the school districts are limiting travel.
Yes,
and so and I will say this: let's tip our cap to our school board who allowed Coach Jay to go find some games. If there were other counties and school districts that were open to particular travel, then he was allowed to go talk to those teams. So, I got to give credit where credit is due. And how about those other counties as well that allowed some open traveling to allow these kids to have a full-fledged season and not be so limited? I got to applaud those guys for doing that.
Outstanding. Our first game against Venice was on the road.
Yeah.
And so, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that situation. Westwood's going to be a tremendous challenge. Good athletes, talent. Vero's got to bounce back. They will. We know what Coach Jay's capable of doing. It should be another fun game. It's at home. And, you get excited about playing good talent.
Hey, by the way, we got to add something new on our broadcast Friday night as we started doing Facebook Live.
Yeah. You know what? I had people tell me that I saw at church on Sunday, said, hey, we watched the game on the because you all told us how to get there. and we were enjoyed looking out on the field and listening to you and Paul. So tell them how to get there.
Well, it's real simple. I mean, you can go to our Facebook page, which is simply Christian FM Sports. We also have, our main station Facebook page, which is Christian FM WSCF, and we tend to link those together, so whenever we're sending a Facebook live feed to one page, it goes to the other one. So you can go there and find those pages, and just like our sports page, and then every time we go live with something, it'll automatically notify you. So it makes it real simple and convenient, and definitely for this season, we're going to continue to do that. We're going to try to make it a little bit better and try to improve it each week as we can, and I got to give some credit to Jay Kendall, who really has stepped up and tried to help us get that video streaming going on our Facebook page.
Yeah, great job, Jay. And we had a lot of people that watched it and had a chance to listen to us too. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you get tired of it, you can always hit the mute button. I understand. I have our board operator do that for Gary sometimes. But it is what it is. No, just kidding, guys. If you want to check it out, it's simply Christian FM Sports is our Facebook page, and like that page, and then every time we go live with a video feed, you'll get a notification right away. So you've been inside the press box with GP and PT, and we're getting ready for the game on Friday night against Westwood. We'll hope to see you there. If not, hey, join us on Facebook Live, join us on our radio or online in some fashion, and as always, go Indians.
Thanks for joining us inside the press box. For more, go to ChristianFM.com.